You're watching KATU Channel 2 Portland. Now, in the spirit of the Northwest, this is Channel 2 News.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn. Welcome to a special late edition of Channel 2 News. A great sense of relief is spreading through the country tonight as investigators positively identify the body of cult leader David Koresh. It was one of the great mysteries left from the deadly inferno that engulfed the Branch Davidian compound near Waco last month. But his autopsy raises new questions tonight.
Preliminary autopsy indicate Mr. Koresh also received a single gunshot wound to the front portion of the head.
Authorities say that gunshot wound was probably the cause of death, but would not speculate whether it was self-inflicted. Searchers found the badly burned body alone near the communications area. The medical examiner used x-rays and dental records to ID the body, but it took some time because the skull had been badly crushed. Of the 6 bodies found so far, all show evidence of being shot. A routine dumpster fire turned out to be much more today when Portland firefighters finally put it out and found a body at the bottom. Investigators say the dumpster had been smoldering for several days. When they found what looked like human remains, they called in homicide investigators. The body was so badly burned they were unable to tell the sex or age of the victim. An autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow to determine the exact cause of death. Almost 150 people paid tribute to a leader and hero of workers' rights today during an emotional service in Woodburn. A week and a half ago, the head of the United Farm Workers, Cesar Chavez, died. But as Victoria Fung shows us, his struggle to increase wages and protect migrant workers will live on through the determined spirit of those he helped.
This memorial service, sponsored by the Northwest Tree Planters and Farm Workers Union, is as much a celebration of Cesar Chavez's life as it is a mourning of his recent death. People here recalled Chavez's dramatic fast in 1988 to protest the use of toxic pesticides that he said were poisoning farm workers. The union leader rallied for a nationwide boycott against one heavily sprayed crop, California table grapes.
Cesar Chavez planted many seeds of compassion and kindness and goodness and gentleness and self-control, justice and peace.
People here paid homage to the charismatic union leader who devoted most of his life to organizing poorly paid Mexican-American migrant workers.
We were all saddened and shocked by the news of his death, but at the same time we feel strengthened and fortified to continue our work.
That work continues at this memorial service, at a concessions table loaded with information about a grape boycott. And locally in Oregon, a boycott of Steinfeld's and Norpac, companies that buy from farms that have had disputes with the Farm Workers Union.
Well, we're talking collective bargaining rights for farm workers. That's all we want. We want to be able to negotiate fair and just contracts. We're asking fair treatment and compensation.
Though in his later years, Chavez faded from prominence and the union lost considerable power since the 1970s, people here say he's made a lasting difference. And they believe Chavez's legacy of hope will carry them through the continuing battle for farm worker rights. In Woodburn, Victoria Fung, Channel 2 News.
Now, the farm workers say they are somewhat better off because of the efforts of Cesar Chavez, but what they really want is to have all farm workers covered by collective bargaining laws. Well, current and former gang members from Portland and 25 other U.S. cities say urban violence and despair won't be solved without the help of all Americans. At today's close of the 3-day summit, participants agreed to push along a truce called by street gangs after the L.A. riots last year. They're also recommending establishing 500,000 jobs for at-risk youth by public and private employers. Well, there's hope tonight that a peace agreement for Bosnia will help stop the violence in that region, but President Clinton isn't taking any chances. In Greece today, the leader of Bosnia's Serbs signed an agreement to divide the country between the Serbs, Croats, and Muslims. But the parliament must still approve the plan, and its speaker has already denounced it. Shells rained down on Sarajevo today, killing at least 2. Many victims there say they don't expect the Serbs to stick to the agreement. They say today's peace accord is just a ploy to avert military action by the West. President Clinton is worried about the same thing tonight. He's going ahead with a strategy involving military intervention. Two main parts of that plan are air raids on Serb positions and lifting the arms embargo against Bosnia's Muslims. Secretary of State Warren Christopher has tonight won support from British allies to develop a common allied stance against the Serbs if that peace plan fails. Vice President Al Gore says the Clinton administration is still committed to getting a health care reform plan passed this year. Some reports suggested the president put it off to concentrate on his budget proposal. Gore also hinted that higher cigarette taxes and a payroll premium may be in works to fund that reform. Protesters in Corvallis turned out in force today to meet Playboy photographers who are coming in to take pictures of Oregon State students. About 50 people waited outside a hotel for the photographer's scheduled arrival.
We have to condemn the society that's
and the
involved.
ideas that we're feeding the men that read this, I mean, the young men, I'm sure young men get a hold of this magazine. They're starting to see women from adolescence as should be large-breasted and thin waist, and the average woman doesn't look like that.
Playboy photographers never showed to meet the protesters, but they are scheduled to audition models for the next 3 days. The OSU women would be featured in a college issue focusing on women of the Pac-10. All would be pictured partially or completely nude. The protesters say they'll be back tomorrow. A long journey out west began again today in the steps of the pioneers. 6 horse-drawn wagons prepared all weekend for their long 6-month trek to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Oregon Trail. The wagons will follow a 2,000-mile route from Independence, Missouri, through Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Idaho. A support crew will follow in motor vehicles, hauling tents, teepees, and other equipment. They hope to hit Oregon City, the end of the trail, by October 22nd. Oregonians today celebrated another landmark event in the state's history, the 150th anniversary of the forming of a provincial government. Several people took part by dressing in old-fashioned garb, including Governor Barbara Roberts. She and the others helped reenact the important meeting at Champoeg 150 years ago.
One of the lessons of the whole Oregon Trail era that I see, as well as what happened at Champoeg 150 years ago, is the idea of people working together, collaboration and cooperation.
That historic vote by about 100 pioneers led to an American-style government instead of a British one, paving the way for Oregon's statehood. Hopefully today's weather is paving the way for more just like it. Could it be Ron Peterson?
It could be Ron Peterson. Who else would be doing the weather this time of day? What was that bright, shiny thing in the sky? It was the sunshine. Remember that? Remember what it was supposed to be like? Here's what happened today. We take a look at the satellite photo. This is the high-pressure clearing that moved in earlier. We had the sunshine here. But now the next frontal system is moving in, and we're getting cloudy skies. There's actually clouds at the coast and showers in Brookings. Hail and farewell to the sunshine for tomorrow. Steve?
See you in just a little bit. Thanks a lot for that. Well, coming up on Channel 2 News, hundreds of thousands of spectators are stunned as a plane explodes right in front of them at an air show. And it's a cloudy day in L.A. for the Suns, but what does it mean for the Blazers? That story a little bit later in sports.